Precons should be the lowest power level on the bracket system. Now, I talked about in a previous video how Exhibition should be bracket 0 and we should shift everything down, and that we should actually have another bracket between 3 and 4. So why do I think that Precons should be the lowest bracket? Well, these days, Precons are the lowest entry points for most new players. I think that most people know that this is going to be the lowest baseline for most table, and if they want to have an actual game, then they're going to have to build at this level or above. And so I don't believe that anyone tries to intentionally build a deck that is weaker than a Precon. This is not saying that there are decks that exist that are weaker than a Precon, but I don't think that people intentionally try to build it that way. And if those decks do exist, I don't think they're finding many games to play with because this is the baseline for most people. What I think actually happens is that people build their decks expecting to play at a certain power level, and then when it doesn't perform well, they'll make adjustments to it to be able to perform at that power level or above. And then that turns into a slippery slope of adding more power to the deck until it's too powerful. Which brings me to the next thing I want to talk about, which is instead of people talking about what power level they think their deck is at, they should talk about what power level they tried to build their deck at. Because a lot of people know about the deck building guidelines, I think they forget that the intent is a very important part of it too. If I just built a Unihope of Spirit commander deck and I bring it to the table saying I think it's power level 2, first off, I don't really know because I've never played this deck yet. But if my deck goes off and I crush the table, it looks like I lied about my power level. But if I said I tried to build it at bracket 2, it could still come off as I tried to lie about my power level. But I feel like how it actually goes that someone might say that they feel like it's bracket 3 and you could just bump it up into that bracket or take out parts to keep it at bracket 2 if that was your intention. I think if we started the conversation with I built this deck with the intention to play at this bracket, then that puts the intention at the forefront of deck building from the very beginning. Because most people like to power up rather than power down, but if you have the intention from the forefront, then I feel like it becomes a little easier to know how to power down your decks a little bit. Now, the biggest issue that I see with this is, from what I've heard, is that Precons are pretty strong these days, and they keep getting stronger and stronger. And I do believe that power creep is a real thing, and that could spill over to the base power of Precons in the end. So I would love to see a redefinition of the lowest bracket to future-proof the whole bracket system in the long run.